deal, but they definitely affect people when they're in headphones, and they definitely affect their vibe and how they perform.
That's like good advice, even for not remote work. Like that's just good advice, you know?
Yeah.
Love it. How do you feel about jumping into the Sauce segment?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So you sent me a song right before we jumped on the call called "Driving Me Crazy" by Jay Summer. I think that's how. Am I pronouncing everything right?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, sweet. So we'll have a listen to that in real time for about 90 seconds, and then we'll talk about what went into it. Sound cool?
That sounds wonderful.
My baby, my love, got to make you my baby, my lady, my love. Your love is driving me crazy, my lady, my love. Wanna say I'm gonna do everything that you want me to do. My heart cries out, burning only for you. Yeah, you need to know, baby, I'm the only one out there for you. Please, stop searching. I am standing in front of you. Oh, got to make you my baby, my lady, my love. Me higher and higher, keeps lifting me up. My love, your loving takes me higher and higher, keeps lifting me up. My love.
All right, man. Love it. Great groove. I love the singer.
He's pretty fantastic. Yeah, he makes mixing very easy because he really goes for it.
I was telling you before we got on the call that he's got like a bit of like a Gnarls. Oh man, now I'm blanking on his name. Gnarls Barkley.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got like a bit of a Gnarls Barkley vibe to him, and also it's got like a bit of like a old school like '80s like diva, like I don't know, Whitney Houston, Tina Turner kind of thing happening. I love the bass. Yeah. So tell me a bit about that song.
It's a really cool track. One of my dear friends, actually a returning member, Ben Diddler produced that track.
Dope.
He's an incredible producer. I'm always learning new cool things from him as well.
Wow, what a sweet guy.
And just hearing what he's up to nowadays, his production just keeps going up and up and up. He's fantastic.
Oh, nice. I'll have to follow up with him. So he produced it.
So he produced that, and we tracked that. We tracked that whole project in about 4 days, I think. Jay Summer, the artist, and one of his writing partners came up from Jamaica, and we worked on that. It was actually a lot of fun. They were really, really nice guys. It was one of those that's one of the reasons why I picked the song, was just a memory of great days in the studios with, dear friends and good people.
Before we were all isolated and in our homes all day, every day.
Definitely.
Wow. So you were involved also in the engineering and also in the mixing?
Yeah, I tracked that as well.
Sick. What kind of I guess were those real bass and synths, or were they like VSTs?
So it's a combination of the two. It's been on bass and on synth bass.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an actual real bass.
Yeah,
not even like a keyboard.
That's his Fender Jazz bass, Jasmine.
Wow, and you just synced it up with, you made it like locked in with like a Prophet or something.
And it was actually something that he brought in and he had locked it together, and it was a great combination of the two tones. It was, like I said, really, really brilliant production on his end.
Oh, sick, dude. Any interesting mixing things that happened?
So I will say one of the things that I feel like was a huge part of actually mixing that project is really choosing the right microphone for the performer in the tracking process. That really saved a ton of time. We ended up using a E47 on him, but whatever the microphone is, there's so many fantastic microphones out there in the world. You know, and you'll never know which one is the right one until you just, hey, let's just grab, I don't know, the first 3 lines on this mic. Let's just hear it and hear a couple mics, and then we'll know. So that will save you hours of EQing. You know, if you're in a fortunate position to be the one actually tracking the stuff. So that was really handy. But as far as mixing that record, I think one of the things that I started to really experiment with working on this project was something I hadn't really spent a lot of time doing, is blending reverbs. I'd done a little bit of it here and there, but never to the degree that I did on this particular project. So that was kind of the starting of some, like, at least for me, a new technique of, you know, trying to explore that world. So that was a lot of fun. You know, I probably used about 4 or 5 reverbs on his voice, and you probably doesn't really sound like that. Maybe it does. It's hard for me to know being on the other end of it, but it
just sounds like, you know, ambience to me.
just finding, exactly. Just blending things, and so you're like, it's an ambience of like, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I don't know. And
are you doing that by like?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. Are you doing that by like actually sending to separate aux channels, or do you like stack them on one aux channel?
So on that particular track, I have tried stacking reverbs here and there, and it's surprisingly cool on certain things. But on that, it's just a send to, you know, multiple returns and blending the returns.
Nice.
And just kind of layering them from kind of short, intermediate, you know, early reflection, some non-land, you know, longer plate, longer haul, that kind of thing, and kind of blending them all together and just using some EQ to kind of make it all sit like it's supposed to, and blending both stereo and mono reverb together, which is something that's really helpful in kind of sound staging, kind of getting a clear left, center, right, at least kind of vantage in the mix.
I need to experiment more with the mono returns. It just sounds like just got to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth playing around with, because there's a certain clarity you can get that I've found, at least in recent years, kind of going back to that and using it a lot more than I had before. There's a certain clarity you can get when you have a mono reverb behind a front and center pan vocal, and the ability to have a separate reverb that's behind it that you can EQ a little bit differently can get you more clarity in the vocal without sacrificing the kind of staging or, you know, sound staging depth you get from the reverb.
Oh, super interesting.
So it's really neat, because it's harder to do that in stereo.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think it's just because they're panned on top of each other. Like, there is a little bit of that, you know, when you're using a stereo reverb, you get some of that crossover in the middle, but it's not quite as pronounced as what you can get with a mono reverb. Maybe it's just a gain thing, and I hadn't noticed that, but it just seems to be because they're sitting right on top of each other. You do get some interesting frequency overlap, and being able to play with that, you know, is pretty interesting. I've definitely learned quite a bit from using mono reverbs in the last few years. It's like something that I got from, you know, the master, you know, Al Schmidt. Not personally, but man, I would love to meet that guy.
Yeah.
That's something that he does quite a bit.
I bet it'll happen. You'll meet him one day.
It's between him and Bruce Swedien and Tom Dowd. Who else is there? You know,
yeah,
that had such long careers and done so much in that way. Incredible.
The OGs, if you will.
You know, Yodas and
the Yodas. Do you like to mix stuff that you worked on, like in terms of like just the tracking or the production, or do you like maybe even prefer mixing stuff that you haven't had your hands on in the earlier stages? I
guess I probably prefer, and it's close because I kind of like mixing just about anything, but it's definitely easier for me, I feel like, to mix something that I didn't track, because I have a much better separation and perspective.
Right.
Like a big picture perspective is much better. You know, unless I have I can kind of set something to decide for like 3 or 4 weeks and not have to think about it and then come back to it. And then it's easier to have like a big picture perspective, but it's definitely, for me anyway, much harder to mix something that I've tracked.
Yeah. I'm assuming you feel the same way about like mastering stuff you've mixed. Is that something that you stay away from?
I actually, for whatever reason, I don't have a problem doing that because a lot of times
Really?
when I mix something, when I know that I have a solid mix, like when I feel good about the mix, it's out of my mind and I can just put it aside and come back, go have lunch and come back and master. And it feels brand new. I'm not sure why that is.
It's amazing. Wow. That's a blessing. I feel like I have the opposite experience. Maybe just because I have less experience than you, but like, it's so hard for me to detach from the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the gentleman that taught me, they kind of made it a big point to kind of teach me mastering first as part of the process. It's like, this is what it's supposed to be in the end. And kind of their vantage or their perspective was, now you know what it's supposed to be. Make sure you don't miss all the little things that allow you to get to this point. Because if you don't do the things in front of this right, you'll never have the opportunity to get this to sound correct or optimal. So I think that is just the way, a way of, because they are two very different disciplines, mixing and mastering, of teaching me kind of go, here's what it should be. Now let's get that kind of ingrained in your ears so that you know where you should end up. And should help you when you're tracking. Oh, that's not going to translate in a final mix or a master. Let's change that, that kind of perspective. So that's always been helpful for me, for sure. Just having thinking about it in that direction.
Yeah. Well, we're always, listening to music that's mastered. So we always have an idea of what a mastered song is like, because that's like what we're always referencing, no matter what stage of the process we're in, right? But how do you define the end of a mix versus the beginning of a master, if that's the case? Like what are you trying to get to, or what do you leave on the side for mastering, if that's the case?
In mastering, I'm really just cleaning up any loose ends. I feel like when a mix is done for me, when I'm at the point where I feel like it's done, is all of the instruments are audible in a balance that feels good, and the message of the song comes across, like emotionally. That's when I know the mix is done, when it connects with me, or I get goosebumps or something. I'm like, okay, now I feel something. Okay, maybe there's a good chance somebody else will too. Okay, I think I'm there. As long as nothing is, completely out of whack, I feel like this is good. So that's kind of the demarcation point for me. Like, when I feel like I'm getting, like an emotion from the song, then I know it's done, or at least done enough to get response from the artist or producer and get their perspective.
Cool. And the mastering is just whatever you missed in terms of like spectral balance, or
if something is a little out, okay, we got a little bottom ends there, but it's a little tubby. Let's clean that up, or that kind of thing. Or and sometimes it will give me perspective, like, okay, the vocal is a little too crisp. Let's add a touch of de-essing. And if it's beyond something that's right, okay, then I'll ask the mixer, or if it's something that I've mixed, hey, can you send me a version with a little more de-essing on the vocal?
Sick. Do you feel like you have a trademark sound?
I suppose I do. I just don't know if I know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that sounds weird, but...
No, it sounds totally normal.
I've definitely noticed from a few people that they've said that they know something that I've worked on, or they can hear that when I've touched something. So, but I don't know exactly what it is. I guess that the fingerprint is.
Yeah.
I guess now I'm going to go back and listen to a bunch of stuff that I've worked on and see if I can figure out if there's a through line. That's really interesting. That's a great question.
Yeah. I wish I had done a little bit more research and like dug a little deeper into your discography before jumping on the call. Maybe I would have like something to say. I unfortunately just didn't have enough time to do that, but I'll get back to you at some point with whatever I think it is. I'll give you my 2 cents if you're interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My goal is to learn at least one new thing every day. And then
like
I'm happy.
A good goal.
I'm always trying to learn new stuff. So
what's the one thing you learned, I don't know, this week that you think might be inspiring for the audience?
So this week, I have spent generally through the COVID process kind of revisiting my roots. So I've been spending a lot more time playing guitar and kind of getting reacquainted with, the original, love for music I had. And so this week I've been studying chord progressions and learning better ways